Hare Krishna. I would like to welcome you again to lectures on Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila. Today we're going to talk about chapter 2, which is entitled that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And before we start, I would like to just chant a mantra for auspiciousness. And also, while speaking, I will share a document with some verses that are actually following the chapter that we're going to speak about. If you have any questions, you are welcome to write them on Facebook. I will check them a little bit later because I'm streaming through Zoom. So all the questions that you have or comments, which you can write also in Croatian language, I will check at the end. If you would like to know what we spoke about last 3 times, there are like videos from 2 or 3 weeks ago, even more, some of the lectures, and also all the lectures are available at YouTube channel of Bhakti Yoga Center in Zagreb. Yeah. Okay, so let's start. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gura Bhakta Vrinda. So every time we start to talk about Chaitanya Charitamrita, we who practice Bhakti Yoga, we like to chant this mantra because it glorifies Lord Chaitanya Mahāprabhu and his associates, of whom we're actually speaking about here. So in a way, it's like a short prayer for their blessings. So now let's start. I will share my screen with you, so you don't have to only see me, but you can follow the text I have prepared. Just a second. Okay. So before we dive into the topic of how Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I would like to read 2 very beautiful verses. Just to make it more loud, I hope you can hear me. So I would like to read 2 verses which are very beautiful because they can be also seen as a prayer and also as a meditation. A beautiful meditation on how transcendental knowledge about Lord Chaitanya Mahāprabhu works and how the devotees actually, who are pure, how they manifest their desire to hear about these topics and how they actually confirm what is written in the Bhagavad Gita and what is written in Srimad Bhagavatam, of how the devotees relish the topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it also confirms how if we want immortality in our life, if we want to actually stop the time, then Srimad Bhagavatam says that we should fill our ears with transcendental topics because the sun decreases the life of everyone on this planet except the one who relishes the topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we do that, in a way, we are creating immortality for ourselves. And immortality is something that is very natural for us because according to our constitutional position, we are eternal servants of the Lord. So we are eternal, we are full of knowledge and full of bliss in that position. So let us start. So the first verse, which is very beautiful, and in which Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, who is the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he prays to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he says, I offer my obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even an ignorant child can swim across the ocean of conclusions about the unlimited truth, which is full of crocodiles of various theories. For me, this verse is very beautiful because it shows how we don't have to be very intelligent or very knowledgeable about things. All we have to do in our spiritual life is actually just accept the instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just like a child, for instance, accepts the instructions of the parents. Children, their first teachers are parents, so everything they want to know about life, they learn from them, and they ask them questions, and they totally and innocently accept everything that the parents say. So in the same mood, we can also accept the instructions of the Lord and his associates. And by accepting those instructions, we can swim across the ocean of conclusions about the ultimate truth. Because all of us have experience to some extent of how everyone in this world has his or her own theory about things. And I always wanted to know the truth about life, and I liked philosophy very much in high school. But I remember that when I started learning it, and especially when I read the book, which is called Sophie's World, which deals with this girl who receives letters from her father, and her father actually teaches her from letter 1 to the last letter about the philosophy of this world. So in the letters, she goes through the whole history of philosophy of the modern world. And the most greatest philosophers are explained there and their philosophies. And I remember reading that book, and it was wonderful in a way because it explores the world in which we are, but also it was confusing because every philosopher that came after the first one had different conclusion and different view of the truth. So we never knew what the truth is. So I remember coming home and being very confused by so many truths. And then my teacher and my parents, they just said that I should just choose the truth that I see most fitting. But in that sense, I can say that I have an experience of what it means to be in the ocean of conclusions about the truth. It's very, very confusing. And if we accept the instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and if we accept the instructions of the scriptures, the Vedas, which come from God, then we will be able to really swim across these all conclusions of the truth. And we will be able to see what in these conclusions is truth and what is false. And so all these theories are actually called crocodiles. So all the theories and speculations are a danger in this ocean in which we swim. So we will only be saved if we follow the instructions, and we should be like the child who accepts from his parents. So in that sense, I found this very beautiful meditation on us and a reflection on our own life in this one prayer. Then we have verse 2 of the second chapter, which is also very beautiful. And it goes as follows. O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy names, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are compared to swans, ducks, and bees. The river's flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. So basically, a person who is searching for spiritual life in this material world is very thirsty, because whatever is around such a person is only temporary. Like, the world is temporary, the situations are temporary, the people around us are temporary. So they will never give us this eternal bliss that we are always searching for. And it will never, the activities in this world will never purify us in the sense that the spiritual activities do. So, and it will also not give us knowledge about who we really are, and that we are the spirit soul, and that we have a relationship with God. So topics of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and instructions from the Bhakti Yoga are like nectar for the thirsty. There's like tongue, and this tongue is actually a tool by which a person in human form of life can purify himself or herself. So we're chanting the glories of the holy name of the Lord. And these glories, as it is said in this beautiful verse, are like the river Ganges. So they purify the one who speaks about these glories, and they purify also the one who hears about these glories. That's why it is written here that the river's flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. So it is nectar for the tongue when we speak. So for me personally, it's nectar when I speak about the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna, because it gives satisfaction, internal satisfaction for me. But also before I spoke about it, I heard about it, whether from the great sadhus, my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, or I read it in the books. So it was so inspiring for me that it gladdened my ears and my heart. So in that sense, we can see that this verse is very much true. So, and then it says that beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy names. So this is what it is in the river. So the singing, chanting, and dancing. And then beautifully, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purports how this movement of Bhakti Yoga, movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, movement of Krishna consciousness in the Western world, or actually in the whole world now, is movement that actually is based on singing, chanting, and dancing. And this is what the devotees do. And the devotees are also described in this verse as swans, ducks, and bees. So swans, ducks, and bees are considered to be animals that are auspicious and animals that have certain qualities which can be seen in devotees. So the bees, they follow the nectar, and the swans, they extract the milk from water. So again, they extract the nectar. But I don't know what it is about ducks, but there might be something that is also auspicious. But in that sense, like the devotees are like this, and they're very much satisfied with the talks about the transcendental activities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these two verses I found very beautiful and nice as a meditation on what is actually our process here in Bhakti Yoga, and why actually are we speaking here about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so that we can taste this nectar through our tongues and through our ears. So in this second chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing the objective of the book of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the object of this book is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we already explained that a little bit. We touched upon it in chapter 1. And what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is doing here, he's saying, as the title itself says, that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he wants to establish this truth by basing it on the authority of the scriptures. So what he's saying is that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Lord Krishna himself. And as I said, that he proves on the basis of the scripture that Lord Krishna is the source of everything and all other incarnations. And since Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna are the same, Lord Chaitanya is also the source of everything. So what he's trying to do here is to show the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to show that even though he appeared as a devotee 500 years ago, he's not an ordinary person. He's actually an incarnation of Krishna, but not an incarnation of Krishna as they are described in Srimad Bhagavatam, he's actually Krishna himself, who came in a disguise of a devotee under the mood of Srimati Radharani. So he's actually, which we will see in later on chapters, he is the combination of Lord Krishna and and Srimati Radharani. So he's Lord Krishna in the sense that he is that person, but he took the mood of Srimati Radharani, and therefore he appeared in the golden complexion. So you can see in these pictures, for instance, that we have here on the computer, how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is shown with Radha and Krishna standing beside them. This actually indicates that he is Radha and Krishna. And on this first picture, he's actually revealing his identity to his associate Ramananda Raya. So he was the one who actually understood who Lord Chaitanya is, and he offered prayers to Lord Chaitanya, and he stated how he sees in him and he knows that he's Lord Krishna, none other than Lord Krishna himself, who came in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested himself as Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani. But here, what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is trying to do in this chapter is to establish on the scriptural evidence that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Lord Krishna himself, which actually means that he is the cause of all causes and source of everything. And this will be seen throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita, because you will see that, especially when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes sannyas, when he starts to exhibit certain moods, he will appear to some of his devotees as, for example, Lord Narasimhadev or as Lord Rama. So in that sense, he will show that he is the source also of these incarnations, and that in that sense he can adjust himself to the relationships with his devotees that they desire to have with him. So in that sense, when he manifested himself as Lord Narasimhadev to a certain devotee, he manifested himself as such because that devotee had that relationship with him. In the same sense, he manifested himself as Lord Ram to a certain devotee who had that kind of a relationship with him. So in that sense, he shows throughout his Lilas that he is the source of everything, that he is that Krishna, and he can manifest himself in various incarnations. So that's like the philosophical points and reasons how to prove that he's what the scriptures say that he is. And sometimes we may wonder, like, what is the need of so much philosophy? But I mean, philosophy is a branch of science and in humanity, which deals with answering questions about who we are, what this life is, and so on. And we also said that there are so many theories about what is the absolute truth. So in the same sense, transcendental knowledge uses tools of philosophy to prove certain things. And therefore, in that sense, philosophy is important, especially for people who are inclined to intellectually assess truths about life. So this is for their intelligence to be satisfied and to know about who is the Lord. And also it is for all of us who practice Bhakti Yoga, so that we can have good arguments on how to present this to people, that they don't think that this is some kind of a sentimentalism that has no basis in something solid as not. Okay, so in the chapter it is said that Lord Krishna is the absolute truth, and this absolute truth can be known in three creatures. So this is something that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam in chapter 1, canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is the verse, Padanti tat tatvavidas tatvam yajgyanam advayam prameti parameti bhagavaniti shabdyate. So this means that learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So this is actually an indication that the absolute truth can be known in 3 stages. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Swami will explain all the 3 stages and what certain feature of understanding God means, and by which method of yoga can one come to this understanding. He also explains which is the highest conclusion of all of these 3, and which actually constitutes the full knowledge of what is absolute truth. So this is also good to know, because many philosophies and many religions and many yoga paths, they mention these 3 features of understanding God, and they call it in similar names. And the Vedas explain what actually all these features represent and which knowledge of the feature is complete and which is not. So let's start with the first one. The first one is Brahman, which actually means like Brahmajyoti, or the energy or the effulgence of the Lord. It represents actually, according to the Vedas, the bodily effulgence of God. But actually in various philosophical and spiritual movements, this actually represents when someone is saying that everything is energy, everything is one, we're trying to become or merge into this one energy. They may call it the universe or love or something like that. But this is like what is considered to be Brahman. We want to be liberated from the bodily conception of life, because we are tired of the miseries that the bodily conception of life brings us. So we want to merge into some energy and we want to attain peace. So in that sense, that is one of the features of understanding the absolute truth. And in this feature of understanding the Lord as Brahman, we understand the eternity. But such knowledge is not complete. 2 items are missing, which is knowledge as such, the full knowledge of everything in this world, because the soul as such is full of knowledge, and the bliss component is also missing. So this cannot be found in someone who understands the absolute truth through understanding Brahman. So philosophical speculators are the ones who are actually searching for the absolute truth in this way. And this kind of yoga is called Jnana Yoga, which means that we're trying to eliminate from this world what is not spiritual. So we are saying like, oh, this is not God, that is not God, this is not God, that is not God. And then in the end, we come to some kind of a void. So this is how the Jnanis understand, and this is the level of the understanding of Jnanis of God, and it is not complete. And even though such practitioners may attain liberation and may merge into Brahman as they want, or they even can go to Brahma Loka, which we can see from this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.6.47. It says that this kind of saints who are meditating on Brahman are usually very austere and naked. They are totally detached from the bodily concept of life, and they live in this state of consciousness of meditating on Brahman, and they can live in the realm known as Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is also a planet of Lord Brahma, and in the scriptures it is described how it is actually made of Brahmajyoti. So in that sense, I wouldn't say that the persons who, so these austere naked saints who actually go to Brahmaloka, they in a way come and as spiritual sparks also and merge into Brahmajyoti that is there. So that's quite interesting. And then the question arises in the scriptures that what is actually this Brahman? And the answer is given by Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma is the one who created this universe. But before he created the universe, the Lord created the universe. And he created actually Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma was born out of the lotus flower, out of the lotus flower that grew out of the navel of Lord Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So one of the incarnations of the Lord. So and he was the only living entity in this universe which was full of darkness. And he just heard a voice saying tapa, which means austerity, and he understood that he has to perform certain austerities to understand who he is, what is his position, and so on. And he started to do that. And the descriptions of his meditations are actually written in Brahma Samhita. And he had a full realization of actually God in his meditations, and he understood who God is. He saw the spiritual world. He saw the Lord as the source of everything, as Govinda. And only when he gained this knowledge, he was given the knowledge of how to create his universe. So he's considered to be a second creator, actually, of the material universes. And he's also our second guru in our line of Bhakti Yoga. So the first guru in Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya is Lord Krishna himself, who gives knowledge. And he gives his knowledge to his first disciple, who is Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma is the second guru, Lord Krishna is the first guru. And Lord Krishna revealed all this knowledge that we know today in the heart of Lord Brahmaji. And his knowledge, Lord Brahma described in his song, which is called Brahma Samhita. And here he also explained what is considered to be Brahman. So it is written in Brahma Samhita 540 that the glowing effulgence of Lord Govinda's transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which displays the varieties of countless planets with their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. I worship Govinda, by whose grace I am empowered to create the universe. So we can see that this Brahman, this light, this energy, is actually the emanation of the rays coming from the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who is actually a cowherd boy who plays a flute and who is living on the highest spiritual planet in the spiritual world, which is called Krishna Loka. So he is the source of everything. And what Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami is trying to say, that this Lord Govinda, of whom Lord Brahma is speaking, is actually Lord Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, who came in the disguise of a devotee in this age of Kali, to give what no other incarnations has ever given before, and that is chanting of the holy names of the Lord, by which we can understand the highest mellows of conjugal love that one can have towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the highest relationship one can have with God. So in that sense, the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is considered the most merciful one, because he gives for free the highest, and it was never given before. And after all this knowledge will be forgotten, it will take a lot of years for him to come again and to give this mercy. So this is what Brahman is, and what is also interesting is that this material universe is actually based on Brahmajyoti. Everything that is created from the Brahmajyoti, the rays of the Supreme Lord, because these rays contain the energy of the Lord, which manifest in certain way as elements, and then elements manifest in certain forms. And all of this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, especially in cantos 2 and 5, I think, of Srimad Bhagavatam. So you can see the detailed explanations there. Okay, so the second feature of understanding the absolute truth. So the second feature by which we can understand the absolute truth is if we understand the absolute truth as a super soul, not supra-soul, but super soul. And then another name for this super soul is Paramatma. So we are a soul, but we are small, and we are also an Atma. Atma or soul is the same. But the Lord is supreme, is above all of us. So he's the super soul or Paramatma. And this Paramatma is also not considered to be the source of everything. It's not the original Lord. It is only considered to be his partial manifestation. He is considered to be a plenary portion of Lord Govinda's personal expansion, and it can be understood by practicing Ashtanga Yoga. If you want to know more about Ashtanga Yoga in the context of Bhakti Yoga and in the context of the instructions of Lord Krishna in the Brahma Gauda Sampradaya, which we are teaching here now, then you can read chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Ashtanga Yoga is actually explained in detail. So these are yogis who are sitting on a kusha grass in a certain position, who are practicing pranayama and who are trying to meditate on this one position between the eyebrows and trying to picture the Lord here and meditate on him. And actually by this meditation and all these yoga processes, which are described mostly by Patanjali, we can actually have the understanding of the Lord in the heart. But what I've learned in my studies of Srimad Bhagavatam is that even though we sometimes use Patanjali and Yoga Sutras to preach and to try to, not to preach, but to share about Bhakti Yoga and to make it closer to people, I must say that from what I have heard and read, Patanjali's system of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, is actually very atheistic, because in the end, the goal of it is actually not to know the God. But if someone wants details about that, we can talk about it on some other occasion. He just uses it, to understand consciousness. But actually, there is no personal conception of God in Patanjali's yoga. So it's quite different in that sense. So, but we mention him because he was the one who explained Ashtanga Yoga. And even though someone may practice certain things which might be atheistic, if he comes to understand and realize the Lord in the heart, for instance, then we can say that he has understood Paramatma as such, God in this feature. So it's possible in both ways, but just that that Patanjali actually, the whole system is not to understand Paramatma. But when we talk about Ashtanga Yoga, we should refer to the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So that is what actually, how the process actually works and how we can understand the Paramatma by following the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And I liked how the super solar Paramatma is explained in the verses that I mentioned in this chapter. And one verse gives a beautiful example that as one sun appears reflected in countless jewels, so Lord Govinda manifests himself as Paramatma in the hearts of living beings. So I found some kind of a picture of jewels, and we can imagine that there is, for instance, a sun in the sky, which is trying to be reflected in these jewels. So in the same way, there is Govinda in the spiritual world shining, and being manifested through this partial expansion, plenary actually, portion, manifested in each and every body, in each and every atom in this universe. So this is the Paramatma feature. And still, this understanding this feature of God does not give us the complete picture about the absolute truth. The full picture is given when one understands that, when one understands the Lord and his feature is Bhagavan. And that means that he understands, or she understands, God as a person. So Bhagavan means God as person, the supreme personality of Godhead. And the quality of Bhagavan is that he's full of six opulences. He's full of strength, beauty, renunciation, wealth, power, and knowledge and detachment. Detachment and renunciation, I said. But like these six opulences, if someone possesses in full, he is considered to be God. And this Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who possesses this these six opulences in full, is considered to be the Lord in his original form. And this can only be experienced and known by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Because in Bhakti Yoga, we understand that we are individuals, God is an individual. And what we are trying to do here is to establish a relationship with the Lord by practicing certain activities so that we could come to understand that we are actually his servants. And that's our constitutional position in this relationship, is that we love God, and that God loves us, and that there is an exchange here. And this exchange actually gives us bliss, the ultimate bliss and happiness, for which we are always hankering for. So this whole material world is actually moving because everyone wants happiness, everyone wants pleasure, everyone wants to fulfill his desires and wants to feel complete, fulfilled, and so on. But we cannot do it here. But we have this urge, and we are searching in the wrong place. But if we search in the right place, in the relationship with Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we will understand this last feature that we're searching for, which is bliss. So we said that the spirit soul is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. So we can understand the aspect of eternity by knowing Lord as Brahman. We can understand the aspect of full knowledge if we know the Lord as Paramatma, because he's situated in our heart. If we know the Lord in our heart, and he's our witness, and he's the one who is giving us intelligence, and he is the one who actually knows the past, future, and present. Therefore, if we connect in that sense with Lord Paramatma in our heart, we can have full knowledge of things as they are, because we receive the knowledge from the Lord himself. And the third aspect that we search for, that is natural for us, that is part of us, part of the soul, is this bliss part, ananda, and it can be only realized in the relationship with the Lord as person. So therefore, it is established in the scriptures that Bhagavan is superior to Brahman and Paramatma. So the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma is incomplete. And Bhagavan, the knowledge of Bhagavan is complete, and it also includes knowledge of Paramatma and Brahma. Yeah, and here it is written something that Srila Prabhupada gave as a conclusion in his purports, which says that less intelligent students of either of the above schools, so whether it's Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga, sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization. But those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of the absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision. So basically what he's saying is that sometimes people who practice these three types of not three ways of gaining knowledge about the absolute, they think that their knowledge is better in some way. But the true seer understands that all of the three are actually talking about the same absolute truth. So it's not that that someone truth is you cannot even say that that the Lord is only Bhagavan and claim that, when Bhagavan includes Brahman and Paramatma. So in that sense, we have to have the complete understanding. Even though the person who understands God as Bhagavan will never say that, but this is just said to give an example. So it's also very nice to know that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami even explains the word Bhagavan, what it means. So he says that Ba means sustainer and protector, Ga means leader and creator, and Va means dwelling, which refers that all the living beings dwell in the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord dwells within the heart of every living entity. So if you read a little bit these explanations of what is Bhagavan, you can really understand that actually all the three features of understanding the absolute truth are here. So all the living beings dwell in the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord dwells within the heart of every living being. That refers also to Brahmajyoti and Paramatma. He is the leader, creator, sustainer, and protector. This is also about Bhagavan and also about Paramatma. So when we combine all these concepts of the word Bhagavan carries the import of inconceivable potency, knowledge, energy, strength, opulence, power, and influence, which means that Bhagavan is the one who is full of six opulences. So even the word itself proves it. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami again says, which is important and this is something that he tries to establish all the time in this chapter, is that same Govinda personally appears as Chaitanya Goswami, which means Lord Chaitanya Mahāprabhu. So no other Lord is as merciful in delivering the fallen souls. He's Swayam Rupa. Swayam Rupa means that he's the original form of the Lord. He's the origin of everything. From him, everything emanates. And then because there are the knowers of the Vedas, they also know that there are various incarnations of the Lord. And they also understand that the word Bhagavan doesn't always refer to Lord Krishna. It can refer to any incarnation of Krishna, and sometimes it even refers to some great personality. So in that sense, there can be misunderstandings of who actually Bhagavan is. So therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is talking about what are the qualities of Bhagavan, and these qualities can be found in Lord Narayana because he's also considered to be a Bhagavan. And the qualities are that a Bhagavan resides in the transcendental world. So Lord Narayan, he resides in the transcendental world on Vaikuntha Lokas. He's full in six opulences. Six opulences, nothing but six opulences. So yeah, in that sense, Lord Narayan is also described. He is the Lord of Goddess of Fortune. He is described as absolute in the scriptures, and no one is equal to him. So this is something that is found in the scriptures when we talk about Lord Narayan. But what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is going to try to prove, based on the scriptures and on the instructions that he received from the six Goswamis, is that Krishna is superior to Lord Narayan. And this statement is based on Srimad Bhagavatam. So what is important when we study Chaitanya Charitamrita, we should understand that Chaitanya Charitamrita is the postgraduate study of Bhakti Yoga. First, we have study of the Bhagavad Gita. And after the Bhagavad Gita, we study Srimad Bhagavatam. And then after Srimad Bhagavatam, we come to study Chaitanya Charitamrita. And even Chaitanya Charitamrita is written in that sense, because you will see that Srimad Bhagavatam is many times quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita as proving something about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or some statements that are made in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And you will see that if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, it will be easier for you to understand these statements than if you didn't read it. So in this case, when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is trying to prove how Sri Krishna is superior to Lord Narayana, he's using the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is found in Canto 10, chapter 14, verse 14. And this is actually one Lila, which is called Brahma Vimohana Lila. It is the Lila in which, or Lila means pastime. It's a pastime in which Lord Brahma, who forgets totally about his vision of the Lord at the beginning of creation, even though he creates every day when he wakes up. But that's another story. But yeah, through time we have the tendency to forget. So Lord Brahma also forgets, and he doesn't recognize that Lord Krishna, when he appears on this planet, which happened 5,000 years ago, he didn't recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He just thought that maybe he's some person who has maybe some powers, and he wanted to actually to prove his superiority in a way, and also to challenge this boy who was playing in certain ways and killing the demons and so on. So he kidnapped the cowherd boys. Actually, he tried to kidnap the cowherd boys. But Krishna bewildered Lord Brahma, because when Lord Brahma kidnapped the cowherd boys, Lord Krishna expanded himself into all the cowherd boys and all the cows and all the calves that Lord Brahma took, and he just became them, and he returned home, and he enjoyed in these forms for 1 year. And then after 1 year, his brother, Lord Balaram, realized there's something wrong. And that's another story, I will not go into details. But then he realized that actually Lord Krishna is all these cowherd boys and cows and calves, and he was just laughing because he knew that Krishna was playing. But during this 1 year, only a few seconds elapsed for Lord Brahma. So 1 year on the earth was few seconds for Lord Brahma. So he took the cowherd boys somewhere, and the cows and the calves, actually the calves and the cowherd boys, he took somewhere, and then he turned around and he saw that actually there are these cowherd boys that he kidnapped, and these calves that he kidnapped, they're actually there. So he was totally bewildered and he didn't understand what was happening. And then Krishna showed him how he's actually how he actually expanded himself into these cows and cowherd boys, and he showed himself in them, which means that he manifested his Vishnu form in each and every cowherd boy and calf in which he expanded himself, just to show Lord Brahma that this is all actually him, and these are all his expansions, and that actually he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Brahma realizes this, and he, first of all, he's bewildered, and then he's a little bit afraid because he understood he made some offenses, and then he starts to offer prayers to Lord Krishna. And while he offers these prayers to Lord Krishna to actually praise his position and to actually explain who actually he is, he's stating some transcendental truth. And he states also this statement, which is written in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 14, verse 14. So he says, "Are you not the original Narayana, or supreme controller, since you are the soul of every embodied being and the eternal witness of all created realms? Indeed, Lord Narayana is your expansion, and he is called Narayana because he is the generating source of the primeval water of the universe. He is real, not a product of your illusory Maya." So Srila Prabhupada explains further in the purport. This statement, which is from Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken by Lord Brahma in his prayers to Lord Krishna, after the Lord has defeated him by displaying his mystic powers. Brahma had tried to test Lord Krishna to see if he was really the Supreme Personality of Godhead, playing as a cowherd boy. Brahma stole all the other boys and their cows from the pasturing grounds, but when he returned to the pastures, he saw that all the boys and calves were still there. For Lord Krishna had created them all again. When Brahma saw this mystic power of Lord Krishna's, he admitted the defeat and offered prayers to the Lord, addressing him as the proprietor and seer of everything in the creation, and as the super soul who is within each and every living entity and is dear to all. That Lord Krishna is Narayana, the father of Brahma, because Lord Krishna's plenary expansion, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, after placing himself on the Garbha ocean, created Brahma from his own body, Mahavishnu in the causal ocean, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the super soul in everyone's heart, are also transcendental expansions of the Supreme Truth. In his commentary on this verse, Srila Sanatana Goswami has elaborately explained the expansion of the Vishnu or Narayana, incarnations from the original form of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. The essence is that although Lord Brahma was born from Lord Narayana, Brahma now understands that Narayana is himself a mere expansion of the original personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So this is the realization of Lord Brahma. And as we said, the Lord Brahma is our second guru in our disciplic succession. So he knows what he's talking about. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is basing his statement that Krishna is superior to Narayana on this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then there is also a further dialogue that Lord Brahma has. Actually, it's not a dialogue, it's like a prayer in which he establishes who actually Lord Krishna is. So Lord Brahma proves that Krishna is Mula Narayana, the original Narayana. So Lord Narayana is just an expansion of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the source of that Narayana. So he gives 3 reasons why Krishna is Mula Narayana. He says that he's the Supreme Atma, that he's the supreme cause and shelter. Just as the earth is the original cause and shelter of all the pots made of earth, so you are the ultimate cause, Nidana, shelter, Ashraya, and the super soul Atma of all living beings, both in the material and spiritual world. And then he says and explains how Nara means the aggregate of all living beings, and Ayana means the refuge of them all. So Narayana means the refuge of all aggregate of all an aggregate of all the living entities, which is actually Lord Krishna, because from him everything comes, and even Lord Narayana himself. So he is the original Lord Narayana, not this expansion of Lord Narayana from which Lord Brahma came. Then the second reason is Adisha. He says that Lord Krishna is the Lord of Purusha avatars. What are Purusha avatars? The ones that we mentioned when we were reading the purport of Srila Prabhupada. We have Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, we have Mahavishnu, and we have, which is also called Karamlokashayi Vishnu, and we have Kshirodakashayi Vishnu or Super Soul. And these are called the Purusha avatars. So he's the Lord of them all. From Lord Krishna, they all came as playing a role in the creation of the material universe. So he says that you sustain and protect the 3 Purusha incarnations who are the controls and protectors of all the jivas. So they control and protect us, but the one who controls and protects them is actually Lord Krishna. And therefore, since your power is even greater than theirs, you are the primeval Lord and the original Father of everyone. So that's the second reason. The third reason is, this is Sanskrit, but it's nice to know. Akhila Loka Shakshi. He is actually the witness of everyone's deeds, both in the material and spiritual world. The Lord Brahma says, you witness all the deeds of all living beings in the past, present, and future. Thus, you know the essence of everything. All worlds and their residents cannot exist without your supervision. So you are the original Lord Narayana because you supervise absolutely everything. And therefore, it should be concluded, Lord Brahma says that Narayana is your Amsha. Amsha means like a part. So he's your plenary portion. And also, there are certain like philosophical aspects that say that Lord Krishna can only exist in the 4th dimension. And this 4th dimension is called Turiya. And actually, Turiya or 4th dimension means transcendence. So transcendental dimension is actually the 4th dimension. It's actually the spiritual dimension. And it's actually the dimension in which God exists. So the Purushas, which we now mentioned, Karanadakashaya Vishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, who are engaged in maintenance and creation of this world, because they are in the universes and they are performing the functions here, they're more connected to material energy. But Krishna is not. He's aloof from it all. But then it is said and explained how even though they are in the universes and performing their functions here, where material energy is prevailing, they are still not touched by this energy. They are beyond illusion. But still, Krishna is even better because he's totally aloof from this place, and he actually acts only through his energies. So, and it is said, it is explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami how this truth that we were now explaining, how Lord Narayana actually is the expansion of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna is the source of Lord Narayana. He is the ultimate Narayana. This is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, which will be further elaborated by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And it is important to note, like, that this is important. All of these statements are very important to be known, because sometimes people, they see Krishna's bodily features are that he has 2 hands, 2 feet, he plays a flute, he looks like a cowherd boy, so he looks like any human being because he performs human-like pastimes on this planet. And when we look at Lord Narayana, then we see a personality who has 4 hands and who holds conch, a wheel, a mace, and a lotus in his hands. And he always looks so mystical. So therefore, we automatically think that that must be God, because this incarnation looks so humane. It just must be some incarnation of God that he performs when he wants to come to the human world. But that is not true. Even in the Catholic or Christian religion, it is said that man is created by the image of God. So therefore, actually, the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is with 2 hands and 2 feet. And based on this image, actually, the human form is made. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he established this, and then he's going to talk about Krishna as the source of all incarnations. So he said, like, okay, Lord Narayana is not the source, Lord Krishna is the source, but Lord Krishna is also the source of everything. And what Lord Brahma said here is established as the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, because Sutta Goswami will confirm that in Canto 1, Chapter 3, 28. This is very important verse. It's considered to be, I forgot the name of that verse, but if you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, then you have to read Srimad Bhagavatam and all the scriptures regarding Lord Krishna with reference to this verse. So this is like your glasses through which you can understand the scriptures. And this verse goes, Ete chamsa kalapamsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam intrari vyakulam lokam radayanti yuge yuge. And it means all of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Shri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. So when Sutta Goswami was speaking, or Shukadeva Goswami, I forgot which one, but I think it's Sutta Goswami, when he was talking about when he said all the above mentioned incarnations, this means that this chapter actually is enlisting the incarnations of the Lord. And I don't know how many are mentioned, more than 20. And then it says that these are just some which are mentioned here in this canto, but there are innumerable incarnations of the Lord. But then, so that we can understand which one is the original of all of these incarnations, then this verse was spoken. And so it says that all of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Shri Krishna is the original personality of God. So he is the source of everything. Yeah, Sutta Goswami was stating that. So therefore he distinguished the incarnations by their specific symptoms and confirmed Krishna to be their ultimate fountainhead. So that's very important, and that's a verse through which we understand Srimad Bhagavatam and the whole philosophy, because there is only one God, and he has many incarnations and many names, but the source and the cause and the origin of all is Lord Shri Krishna, who is actually Govinda, a cowherd boy situated on Krishna Loka, the highest planet in the spiritual universe. And then what is important is that Krishnadas Kaviraj says that some people may argue that this is just another interpretation, by the way, and we can say like I can say this is another interpretation, but the way I see is that Narayana is the source of everything and Krishna is his incarnation. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj is explaining the logic of how you read the scriptures, which is actually not important for this lecture, and it's really going into details, and I will not go through that. It's just like how you read the verse. And then the conclusion is that Sutta Goswami understood it correctly, and he gave the interpretation according to the rules of interpreting the religious scriptures. And he therefore expressed the correct conclusion. And what is also important is that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that authorities, which means the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the saints, are above the 4 defects of conditioned souls. Why? Because they are liberated, they are pure, they are situated in their constitutional position. First of all, Lord Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gave all of this knowledge. I mean, he's the creator of the Vedas. So he gave all of this knowledge. This knowledge is considered apaurusheya in Sanskrit, which means infallible. It was given from someone who is infallible. Lord is infallible. He's transcendental. He gave the knowledge. Therefore, the knowledge is infallible and transcendental. He gave the knowledge through the disciplic succession of personalities who are pure devotees, who are no longer conditioned souls, but liberated souls. And automatically, if they are not conditioned, there are no mistakes, no illusions, no cheating, and no defective perception in their conclusions. So the point is that if we want to understand the scriptures, we have to have this faith that is so. And then with this faith that this statement is true, we should practice Bhakti Yoga, and then we will gain our own realizations in our life, mostly through the heart where Paramatma is situated. And we will understand that the statements of the scriptures are actually true. So only when we accept this can we derive correct conclusions of the scriptures. Now let me see how much I still have. Okay, not so long. So yeah, these chapters are a lot philosophical, so it takes more time. And I don't want to make this chapter into part 1 and part 2 because it talks about similar things, but gives different arguments, and we can go through them if it would be just 15 minutes longer, which I think it's okay. So what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami establishes again in the chapter, he's trying to prove that, so he proved that the original form of the Lord is Lord Krishna, not Lord Narayana. He's the source of all incarnations. And therefore, because he's all of that we now enlisted, Krishna is the shelter, ashraya in Sanskrit means shelter, and the abode, Dhamma. In Sanskrit, Dhamma is abode of everything. And then again, you will see that whatever a saint or saintly person who speaks this knowledge, spiritual master, whatever, they say that it has to be supported by the scriptures. So he says that Krishna is the shelter of everything and the abode of everything. And he's so because he is the origin of everything, the cause of everything. And how can we understand this? This is also what is written in Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 2, chapter 10, verse 1. Shishuka vacha hatra sargo visargascha stanam poshanam uttaya manvantare shankata nirado muktirashraya. So Sri Shukadeva Goswami said that there are 10 topics which are described in Srimad Bhagavatam, which refer to the creation of the universe, which is Sarga. Subcreation, Visarga. Planetary systems, which is Stanam. Poshanam is protection of the Lord. Uttaya is the creative impetus by which we act actually. Manvantaresha is the change of the Manus. So Manus are like prime ministers in the government of the universe. So they change. So it's about the history of the universe and the change of all the prime ministers in the universe, which are actually ruling over the planets and the kings, and they're giving the laws by which everyone should live. So Esha is actually a word Isha, which means the Lord. Anu means the Jivas, and Kata means speaking about. So another division is the science of God, which actually means descriptions of the Lord and his devotees. Then Nirodha is returning home, back to Godhead, which actually means the topics of annihilation of the material world. Then Muktir is liberation, and Ashraya is the summum bonum. So Ashraya is actually described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and it refers to Lord Krishna. So in that sense, he says that all of these 10 divisions find their shelter in the 10th topic, which is described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes Lord Krishna. So in order for all these 9 topics to exist, it is imperative that first the 10th topic, the shelter, exists, because the shelter is the origin of all of them. So this is some kind of a philosophical logic by which we can prove and understand that Krishna is the shelter of everything and that Krishna is the abode of everything. And verse 2 of the same canto chapter, they try to just give us a clue how we can understand this. So they say that we can understand this by reading the Vedic scriptures and through prayers to the Mahajanas, so the great souls, or through their direct explanations. So these are the 3 ways how we can understand all this. And therefore, as I also already said, conclusion is that Krishna is the 10th subject of Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore he is the shelter of all. And therefore, the 2nd chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita establishes these truths and then says how this original form of the Lord, which is the shelter of everything and the abode of everything, he has various swarupas or forms and shaktis. And if we want to understand the cause of all causes, the origin of everything, we need to understand his forms and his energies. And therefore, it is said that one who knows the real feature of Sri Krishna and his 3 different energies cannot remain ignorant of him. So if we want to understand the Lord, we have to understand everything about him. And there are 6 forms that are mentioned here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And they're connected with chapter 1 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, because there we were explaining how Krishna enjoys. So this is just a continuation of explaining, of Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami explaining to the audience how Lord Krishna enjoys. So he enjoys through various forms, which are called swarupas in Sanskrit. So two forms are two kinds of manifestations, which are prabhava and vaibhava. Prabhava means manifestation of the Lord, which is fully potent with all his energies. And vaibhava means partially potent, it doesn't have the energies to the fullest extent. Then there are two kinds of incarnations, which are Amsha, partial incarnations, and Shaktavesha, empowered incarnations. Amsha, we already said, is, for example, Lord Narayana. Shaktavesha, empowered, is, for example, Narada Muni. So this is how the Lord manifests in this material world and how he enjoys. There are also two forms which manifest in two ages. One is Balya, childhood, and the other is Pauganda, boyhood. So this is the age of the Lord in which he likes to enjoy, and he manifests in these two ages in these material universes. In detail, you can see that in, for example, 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where childhood pastimes of the Lord are explained and so-called adult pastimes of the Lord, even though he never ages. But you can see it there. What is also emphasized by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is that Sri Krishna has the original eternal form, which is called Kishora Swarupa, and which means that the Lord is eternally adolescent. And in this form and in this age, he is originally present, and everything else are his incarnations. And it is explained how these 6 categories of forms have innumerable varieties, and they establish the Lord's supremacy throughout the universe. Although there are many, they're all one. There is no difference between them. So they all represent the Supreme Lord. If we want to know the Lord, we also have to know his 3 energies, 3 Shaktis. First one is called Chit Shakti or Swarupa Shakti or Antaraga Shakti, which is actually the spiritual energy, internal potency of the Lord, manifests, for example, in Srimati Radharani. By this energy, the Lord sustains the kingdom of God and its paraphernalia, so the spiritual world. Then we have Maya Shakti, which is also called Bahiranga Shakti, and this is external energy, and this is the cause of innumerable universes with varied material potencies. So this is the energy, external energy, which manifests in the material world. And the third energy of the Lord is Jiva Shakti or the Tatastha Shakti or marginal potency, which exists between the above two and consists of innumerable living entities or beings. So we as Jivas are considered to be Jiva Shakti or Tatastha Shakti. We are a marginal energy because we are prone to be influenced by material energy. So we can sometimes be in the spiritual energy and sometimes in the material energy. That's why we're called marginal energy. And the one who knows all these features and Shaktis is the one who really truly knows the original cause of causes, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that I have glorified Lord Krishna in this way, just to show you who actually Lord Krishna is, and then to say that these are also glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually Lord Krishna himself. So when you see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you should understand who actually he is and what are his glories. And this is, for example, seen in this picture, where, for example, Lord Krishna is depicted in Chaitanya's pastimes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the gopis are depicted in the Chaitanya's pastimes as devotees, associates of the Lord, who through chanting and glorifying Krishna are actually exhibiting the symptoms of the gopis themselves in separation of Lord Shri Krishna. So this is what the 2nd chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita is all about. Now I would like to check actually if there are any comments and questions, and if there are not, then I will finish. But first I have to open my Facebook page to see if someone had a question. I mean, this was very philosophical, so I don't know, but let's see. It's a little bit slow. Okay, no comments. Well, in any case, if you ever have any questions, you can always ask and write, and we can discuss them the next time, or maybe when when the topic won't be so philosophical. But I would like to thank you for your attention and for allowing me to speak about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is very purifying for me. Hope you understood everything, and we will continue in 2 weeks with chapter 3, where we will talk about the reasons why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually appeared in this age of Kali. Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.